All right, spores, welcome to the latest. And so, yeah, that's what we call our listeners.
That.
They're the spores, so the latest installment of the Two Fun Guys. We have someone really fucking cool here in the studio with us, Mimi Millard. She is the founder of a company called Lune, which she'll get into and talk all about it here pretty soon. But also, she is the official brand coordinator, let's say, for the Tumbler Tote. So we're going to dive a little bit into what she's found doing the research on the chaotic mess that Brent and I left her, and then her story. She's built a company from ground up, and it's in Whole Foods, and it's doing really well. So fascinated to hear her story and dive into it. So Mimi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big spore.
Spore, yeah.
Now and forever a spore.
Oh, yeah, you converted another one.
You got another spore.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into Lune, like how you got into business itself.
The Lune journey has been a crazy one. It really stemmed from a personal need. So it was really before I identified that brand strategy was work that I wanted to do. It was just this subject matter is really important to me. And I think that's why I connected with you, Brent, because when you were talking about how Tumbler Tote was really solving a problem for real clients of yours in real life, that's how I felt when I was starting Lune. So, didn't study graphic design. I actually studied engineering, and I thought I was going to go down that path. I lasted a year in corporate life before I realized I needed to be way more creative. I could not sit in a cubicle in a dark room, no matter how cool that subject material was. And so I was looking towards the problems in my own life. And one of the biggest problems I was facing was my menstrual cycle and how disruptive it was. Each month, for days at a time, I'm in excruciating pain. And, from age 12 and up, the messaging for me at that time was just push through it. Don't talk about it, keep it secret from the boys. Even when they taught us about our periods on that one day in health class, or like when the nurse comes in and it's just everything is in very hushed tones, and they separate out the boys and the girls.
Yeah, so the boys don't get to learn,
right?
Don't get to know about it.
It's like, this is good information for everyone to just know how, the cycle works and how humans are made. But that messaging is telling you explicit or implicitly that this should be covered up. And so you really start to internalize that messaging, and that lack of conversation creates lack of good solutions. And so the only solutions I had were, taking birth control to artificially stop menstruating altogether, stop ovulating. Ovulation has great health benefits other than fertility. That's a whole different topic that I'll die on that hill. But the real problem for me was this pain. And so even though I could suppress it in certain ways through painkillers or birth control, it wasn't really going away, and it wasn't addressing the root of the issue, which was nutritional. And I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know how to use nutrition or herbs to support my hormone production. That's stuff they don't teach you. So I had to learn that in my 20s, and that's how I got into prototyping Lune. And so our products are high-potency nutritional supplements for the menstrual cycle specifically. So they're optimized for women's health, for people who specifically experience pain, and then also mood-related symptoms. So PMS, mood swings, irritability. It really takes a toll on your life when you don't deal with that every month. And I know you work with a lot of women in the gym. People are catching on now to how much that affects your life, but it really does affect every area, like your mood, your sleep, your bone density, your energy levels, your skin, your fertility. So for me, I'm now studying herbal medicine more formally, which is a real passion of mine. That started when I was researching Lune. But it's a key to health, I think, I've discovered. For women especially, if you can start with the cycle, it unlocks so many areas of optimal health. And so, that's something I'm really passionate about. I've been doing that for the last 5 years, building that business, building that brand, getting it into Whole Foods, getting our Shopify, our Amazon to where they are, our brand following, our visual identity out in the world. And it led to another learning process, which was that I really like brand strategy work. And so now I'm taking that and running with it.
Can you talk a little bit about the products, the ingredients you put in the product that you found that helps with regulating?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the main ingredients in Cramp Aid are, so Cramp Aid is our period cramp formulation, and that has therapeutic doses of ginger, fenugreek, dong quai, which is a traditional Chinese herb, zinc, B vitamins, and calendula. And then our PMS formulation, Steady Mood, has therapeutic doses of saffron, rhodiola, calcium, iron, magnesium, and again, some B vitamins. And all of those were hand-chosen based on the clinical studies that have been done on menstruating people. So that was really important to me in the research process, was people are going to say evidence-based like all day till the cows come home. And they might be using evidence-based ingredients, but that's not just a catch-all phrase. Like, what evidence are we really looking at? Was it on rats in a lab? Was it on men? Like, were these studies, was this evidence collected from your actual audience? And so we were narrowing down rigorous clinical studies that were done on menstruating people specifically. And then another way that evidence-based can be kind of used to manipulate consumers is you might be using those ingredients, but you're using it at a fraction of the dose that was used in that clinical trial. So you're not actually getting the therapeutic benefit.
Yeah, that runs rampant in all supplements.
Yeah.
All industries. Yeah.
Who's the guy who's trying to age backwards that looks like
Brian Johnson?
And
he looks like he's not having fun.
He looks like a seal, like a living human being's a seal. Anyways, he came out with a supplement. You see those ads where it's like, I take 100 pills a day, but I finally created a supplement. But it's like,
he called it snake oil.
Absolutely. I haven't looked at it, but there is.
Yeah.
Did he?
That's the name of his.
That's kind of brilliant.
Snake oil. Yeah,
which is funny because that's what it is, in my opinion.
It's either super meta or it's.
But yeah.
I mean, he has to release the ingredients. What's in it?
Yeah, but there's 100. In the ad, it says there's 100, because he takes 100 pills a day. He's like, I've taken all those and put those in one supplement. There's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way. I mean, look at just even your fish oil tablet, how big that thing is. And you're telling me you put everything in here?
Yeah.
And then your vitamin T, like just look at the 5 tablets maybe you take at home. D, fish oil, whatever. You're like, you put 100 in this thing?
And I still feel like
flag.
It does. And I still feel like I'm not taking enough supplements, even with my handful of supplements. It's still not enough.
Yeah.
That's why we only launched 2 supplements, because most of them you should be trying to get through your diet. Like when a brand has either a huge list of SKUs where they're just clearly trying to innovate for innovation's sake, and like they're not really even innovating at that point, they're just adding more products, or they have a huge list of ingredients in one product. To me, that's kind of a flag, because you're not getting therapeutic doses. And that's kind of my issue with Athletic Greens, is people are like, I can get everything in one place, and really like having a variety of sources as well is beneficial. So getting certain forms of certain minerals in your broccoli versus your magnesium supplement is great.
Yeah, I made my own because I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos. So I was trying to find like which one's the best source of like chlorophyll, and then like spirulina and chlorella, and each one having different components. And you can, if you just buy like moringa and those 2 other ones separately, you can kind of create your own dosing too. And it basically, that's mostly what it is, just trace amounts of it.
Yeah, diversity is key, because then you can get trace amounts from different sources and different levels of bioavailability and all that.
So you put all this together, then you realize, okay, so now I need to build a brand around it.
It started selfishly because I just needed this product. I was like, let me call up my friend who's studying dietetics and solve this problem once and for all, because I cannot keep missing class. Like, I was in college and this was a real issue for me. I also have 3 younger sisters, and so I was always thinking like, man, if this is what they're up against, that just sucks. I want to try to figure this out before they get here. And so, yeah, once I built it, that was a huge success in itself. I hadn't really foreseen past that. And maybe that's how y'all felt when you created the tumbler tote, is like, oh, we did it. We created this thing that we know solves the problem.
Now we make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's done, right?
We made it.
Give me money now.
Step 1, make product.
Complete.
Step 2, question mark. Step 3, profit. That's how it works.
Exactly. And I went through that exact mind meld where you're just like, oh my God, I did the easy part. Oh no. And so I think that's part of what I bring to the table as a brand strategist now, is having that founder growth journey. You know, so a lot of people study design and study branding and marketing, and then they're just coming in from that angle. But knowing how these products are built in the first place and why and what fires up the founders is really important to me, because I think that consumers today can smell that from a mile away. They can see through any branding and marketing to the founder and understand intuitively if this is authentic to the founder or not. So that's kind of my mission as a founder turned brand strategist, is bringing what excites y'all out in the product and making it its strongest visual identity. Kind of translating that.
So, unless, Brent, you have any other questions on that, I'm curious what you found.
Oh, I found so much. The Stanleyverse, the Stanley Cinematic Universe.
I think
the Stanley
huge.
Cinematic Universe.
It's blowing my mind.
I mean, I think before we dive into that, you know, me and Tony got to a place where we were trying to get into Whole Foods and then maybe Target. And we realized, you know, after one of your friends hooked us up with you and realized how little we know and we need to know in building a brand identity. And after you went over all the process of everything you need, we're like, oh, this would actually help us so much. Like every time we go get our photos done to have a new Amazon listing, or we're putting that pitch deck together.
Yeah,
one of our
it's chaotic unless you have a strategy.
Like, it's fine, go for it.
Yeah.
You're like, and then she's like, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, you'll be
now talking to her. You're like, absolutely,
you'll
not.
be laughed out of the Whole Foods boardroom.
We show up and they'd be like, what?
And which is why we need Mimi, because we have no fucking clue. To us, it looks good. We have guy brain. We're like, it's good.
It's good.
It gets the job done.
It's the job
I'm
done.
happy with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the eye for design
and
is
Amazon's so different.
not
You
for
really
us.
need to like a
That's what I was gonna
strong
say.
brand. You need a logo.
Yeah.
And it has to kind of do with the product.
Right.
And then some
photos. Features and some benefits.
Yeah.
That's what you're taught. But yeah, branding for a real company, totally different.
That distinction is interesting. A real company versus an Amazon company. They are becoming like different things because it's its own world there. It's its own marketplace. And to your credit, I understand all the choices that you made. They're optimized for Amazon. And that's where y'all have lived so far. But if we're going to take this further and if we're going to create something memorable and a brand that's beloved, not just a product that's beloved, right? Like, product has great reviews. But how far can it grow beyond that? Right now, it's really limited to the Amazon world because it doesn't have a memorable brand story. And I can feel the components of that through you guys and through what you care about and through how this was created. And now it just needs to be communicated to the user in a really clear way. And so when you're describing, like, briefing any creator has been so chaotic, that is really the key of this. You want to create a brand story that's so crisp and clear and memorable and iconic that you don't even have to brief anyone. Like, you show them who you are and they immediately get it, because you don't have time to tell a story these days. Like, you have 3-4 seconds for a consumer to make a decision. And maybe you have more time on Amazon because they're really researching and they're reading. But on a Whole Foods shelf or on, a YouTube Shorts scroll or whatever, they are making such a split decision that every color, every symbol, every word choice has to be so carefully designed that it's immediately clear, like, what you stand for and what it's going to say about them if they purchase your product. Because that was the big learning. I interviewed a few Stanley users already as part of my research for Tumbler Tote, and first of all, the age range is insane. I've never seen such
It's like
a
18
wide.
to 60.
My youngest interview, you want to guess how old?
10.
11. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has like 3 Stanleys. And they're bringing them to school. And they all say they wanted one because their friends have it. And then they wanted them because they saw it on TikTok. And they wanted it because, you know, this influencer had it or their mom had it. So it's trickling down. And we'll get into more of our strategy tomorrow when we have our real meeting about this. But I think the TLDR is I wouldn't spend on those users because they're so young. You know, they don't have income. They're not making these buying decisions as intentionally. But the cusps, like the 27, 28-year-olds who are really paying attention to influencers and are fitness girlies or nurses, they are, I think, going to be the target audience for this because not only do they need the product, and also 100% of the people that I interviewed, regardless of age, immediately wanted this product, which really stood out to me. To have an emerging market where there's no education needed is really rare. Really rare. I'm getting excited just saying that.
That's exciting. Makes you feel good. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I don't know. I think you guys have like actually really hit on a gem because it feels similar to the Lune in that this is an emerging space. Of course, there are water bottles forever. Of course, there are bags forever, but they actually really aren't carriers of water bottles. It's not like a standardized market.
I got to tell you this. So I released this fitness program. A bunch of people bought it, blah, blah, blah. And people every once in a while tag me when they do it or whatever, and I repost it. And one gal, I won't say her name or Instagram, she reached out or she tagged me and I was like, oh, cool. And I noticed her Instagram was kind of promoting products, big followers. So I was like, hey, here's our new Stanley holder. Would you want to check it out? And she's like, I think it's amazing, but I'm one of the people responsible for telling Stanley to bring the tumbler back to market and focus on females. And she sent me an article. She's like, so because of the contract, I can't touch that. And maybe I shouldn't say any of this, but she's also like, and the Stanley carrier's not great, which I agree. I don't know what they did with that. They must have just looked at some of the stuff out there. I think
what they did, because it looks like the neoprene ones. So they saw the popular ones that are being sold the most, and they said, well, we'll make a version of that, which is good, because if they copied the tumbler tote, that would have sucked. But now it's patented. So
Stanley, if you want to buy it.
Wait.
Yeah, we will sell it. We will sell
patented?
it. It's patent pending currently.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was going to be one of my recommendations, because I really think this is a market gap, which is like, those are hard to find.
Totally. Patent was just expensive, but we finally got it.
No, that's worth it.
Is it?
Yeah, we got the, well, we'll talk about it later, but I'm talking to Terry about finalizing everything. Terry.
Let's go, Terry.
Let's go, Terry.
Let's do that. That's fantastic. I have some learnings to share with y'all.
Yeah,
please.
Well, you could also share a little bit. What is the first part of the process when helping a brand create a brand identity?
Yeah. Well, my perspective is like, okay, what makes a brand sustainable? And I don't mean eco-friendly. I mean just iconic, long-lasting, memorable. Number one, provide value. So you have to have an inherently valuable product. You guys have that. Everyone I've shown it to has been pleasantly surprised by the quality of the leather and the design, and I have too. You have to make money, inherently profitable business model, or else you're just going to burn out. Those 2 steps you guys got down. The last 2 steps, be you, have a memorable story and visual identity. And then the last step is to show up in the right places where you can connect to your community. That's where I come in and help you guys, refine who your target is, how you relate to them, why this is an important value exchange for the 2 of you. Because I think a lot of marketing is done through fear. It's effective. It's not how I like to operate in the world. I don't love to drive decisions based out of fear. I think there is an alternative option that young consumers are also really open to, which is driving decisions based on joy. And so if you have a joyful connection with someone in that split second, you bring some delight into their life, or you solve a really specific need, they're going to love you and they're going to remember you for that. And so I I've been trying this out when I've been explaining what brand strategy is to people, to lay people who are like, what do you do now? I've been saying that I'm a wedding planner for brands and consumers, because that's kind of how I go through this process, is like learning about what brings you two together, like what are your vows going to be, and then creating a whole visual and experiential world around that, right? Like the wedding flowers, the seating arrangements, how you're going to tell the story, like what the outfits are going to look like. That's all the expression of that connection. So that's just one metaphor I've been using lately. So to go through my process starts always with research and discovery. So that's why I've spent the last couple of weeks interviewing, like really in-depth interviewing people who love their Stanleys and are carrying them around with them everywhere, who would be great prospective customers and who are now testing the tumbler tote, which I'm very excited about. And then also just auditing the competitive landscape already. So what's going on Amazon, what's going on D2C, and what's going on in stores. So I visited 12 in-person retailers in Austin, and just to jump into the research phase a little bit.
Let's do it.
I was so surprised that 10 out of 12 of them had a huge tumbler section, like its own department at this point. Only 2 out of 12 had anything resembling a tumbler tote. And none of them were leather. So, and those stores, those 2 out of the 12 were REI and Whole Earth. So it's very much like, this is a product geared towards camping or hiking. It's not for the everyday woman who's just busy on the go, going to the gym, going to work, going to school. And so there's a real white space for us to come in and be that blend of luxe and sporty, you know? And so I just think there's so much opportunity there to tell that in the story of the product. And it feels really authentic to where you guys started. But there's a lot of interesting quirks about the space too. Like, first of all, there's no consensus on where in the store this goes. It was next to kitchen, it was next to sports, toys, tea, wine, beauty, supplements, candles, flowers. So to me, that tells me we need some flexible merchandising that you can just latch on to wherever drinkware is going, according to that buyer. There also are not a lot of accessories being sold. Hydro Flask is kind of the only one doing that with the straws and the boots. So real opportunity there. And then another learning both from the stores and from the interviews is that Hydro Flask is out, according to the girls. They're on sale everywhere. So it was reflected like directly from the interviews to the store. Stanley is going out. Stanley has peaked.
What's in? Owala's?
Owala.
Yeah. They're making that looks like a Stanley now.
Yeah.
They're making new Owalas. Really? Yeah. It's the shape of a Stanley.
I wonder if it fits. I
think it does.
It does?
I haven't tried it, but it looks the same. It looks like a 30 and 40 ounce.
Okay.
I don't know if you've put one on.
I've been thinking about how this translates to the product, and we'll talk about like product. Well, that brings me to the third phase. Sorry, first phase was research. Second phase is kind of this brand strategy process. So when you start seeing these patterns emerge. Okay, what's out, what's in? What are people saying? What are the actual words they're using? What are they willing to spend? What do they care about? You start seeing these patterns. Third phase is kind of the fun part, which is expression. So that's where we're going to create the visual world. And not just visual, but also tonal. So like what kind of words do we use and not use? What are our watch outs as a brand? Which groups of people do we really prioritize in our marketing? Which groups of people are we okay with not liking us? And so that's where we'll end with this project, is creating our brand style guide that you can hand to any influencer or creator or photographer or partner going forward, and they will immediately know how to communicate the Tumbler Tote brand. And so I'm really excited about that, but I'm still in this pattern recognition phase. And yeah, lots of interesting insights already. I also went into some stores like Target and Anthropologie and Athleta, and they have whole walls of bags on the other side of this. There are whole walls of tumblers, there are whole walls of bags. There are none that fit this exact problem. And literally every person I interview says, yeah, it's really annoying to carry it around all the time. Or I leave it in the car. I bring it with me, but I leave it in the car. It's like, that's the whole point of having the portable water bottle, so you can have it with you.
You're not hydrated
Exactly.
if it stays in the car. Yeah.
I see it all the time.
God,
You're in the airport or whatever, and it's like everyone's just lugging
or
this
like
huge
this,
thing
where
around.
they're like this.
Yeah.
And they're texting.
Yeah.
Like, you need this product. I brought y'all a little gift that I thought was funny.
Sweet.
Oh.
I found this at Book People.
Hydrate.
It is a sticker for your water bottle
This is beautiful.
that says, didn't hydrate, cause of death. It's a little tombstone.
That's awesome.
And it just made me laugh because it kind of brought me back to the fear mongering. Like, why has hydration gotten so big? Okay, if you don't hydrate, you will die. There's a lot of fear around that.
Turns out pretty important.
I mean, it is true, but there's also a joyful aspect to this where we can focus on the optimism that's inherent to, investing in your health. I think it's great that everyone cares so much about hydration, and that's not going anywhere regardless of if it's Stanley or Awala or whoever's next. That will continue to change. But I think we have an opportunity here to create a lasting brand that is about that nexus of being stylish and luxe, also really healthy and functional.
Mhm.
And you can withstand these trends in the marketplace because hydration isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're always going to need that.
My favorite phrase is hydrate or dihydrate.
Period. Exactly.
We'll make some stickers.
Yeah, and it's just constantly a
Hydrated,
rotation of different
hydrated.
water bottles. Like
Yeah.
when we were young, the Nalgene.
Nalgene.
Yeah. Nalgene.
So it's like-
REI
Yeah, water
still have
bottles
the-
as a
Always
whole
were a
will
cool
never
thing.
go away. You
Mhm.
have to store your
Like
liquid
in high school,
somehow.
remember, like everyone had stickers on it and it was all decorated. Everyone had their Nalgene.
Yep.
And
And
it
it
was
was
attached
such a-
to their backpack.
It was a huge deal because they were indestructible, quote unquote.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about Stanley is they also have that industrial feeling, and their brand story has been for a long time about functionality. They were created by, I think, an engineer who discovered some special type of piping, and then they were the first ones to have all stainless steel bottles. But they leak. They're
Mhm.
not functional. Every person who loves them acknowledges this. So there's room for improvement. And I think that's, the beauty of trends is they come and then people discover their flaws and someone creates something better.
Mhm.
And if you can withstand those fluctuations and adapt with what people are asking for, you're going to last a long time.
Yeah. Roll with the innovation.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess the question from a branding perspective, like, why do you think brands survive such a long time? Like, you look at Coca-Cola, it's just a soda. There's nothing really special about it except it used to have cocaine. Other than that, it's just soda.
Mhm.
But that's stood the test of time for so many years, and it's just a simple product.
Yeah.
Like, what makes a brand do that?
I mean, it has this look that makes you feel something.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us equate it with nostalgia, or I know they've done a lot of messaging around family. So I think, whether you're conscious of it or not, when you see that red and white script, you get this cozy, nostalgic feel, to the point that, people just use that look to write different words. I've seen so many different knockoffs of like the Coca-Cola look and feel in an almost like ironic way just for the aesthetic, because the aesthetic is gorgeous now. Whether it started out gorgeous, I don't know. I can't say because I've been biased my whole lifetime. To me now, having been inundated with Coca-Cola messaging through clothes or media, if I look at it, I have to admit I have like a positive feeling in my body. I have a warm, familial, nostalgic sense. And even if I can't articulate that, I feel that. And so that's why I think interviews are really important in the research process, because I'm also going to do a lot of quantitative stuff. I love doing online surveys that are a much bigger audience where we can get hard numbers. But this kind of intangible feeling is a piece that you can't skip, I think. Like, that's how you create that X factor. Like, just how does it make you feel?
Yeah, you need both quantitative and qualitative.
You definitely do. Yeah. And it's interesting because like sometimes the consumer can't describe it. I will quote one of my 11-year-old interviewees when I asked her, how does holding her Stanley make her feel? And she said, whatever. Unquote. I was like writing that down. But she said it with a smile. And then she talked about how her friends had it. And, you start to get these clues of like what kind of feelings are people trying to have when they interact with the product. And I think with drinkware, with hydration, they're trying to feel really healthy. They're trying to feel really prepared for the day. And they're trying to feel trendy. That was something that came up a lot with Stanley, is just the ability to accessorize it in different ways. People are buying little straw toppers, little nameplates, little charms. Like that enables people to take this mundane everyday item that I clearly haven't personalized and have this little clue to other people that this is actually who I am. And you can see more about me. I'm giving you some clues about what I care about, whether it's like the special limited edition color or the little ghost charm on my straw. But these things do matter. And another thing that I wrote down that was just like an aha moment for me was that people don't say, I use a Stanley. People say, I'm a Stanley girl. They're like, it is part of your identity. Or I'm an Awala girl, or whatever it might be. But it's amazing when a brand can reach that point of really aligning with who you believe you are. And it's not just an object anymore. It's like a feeling. It's a display.
Yeah. When a brand gets to a point where it can infiltrate identity.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I'm a Stanley girl.
Yeah, and they're starting to release drops all the time.
Yeah.
They have a Halloween Halloween one that came out. It's black with black bats on it. Like there's all kinds of drops. They had the Barbie one that came out.
Yeah.
Constantly. Stanley's trying to keep the mojo going. You can see it.
I think that's a great tactic for them because they've realized that seasonality and that limited edition nature is part of what allows people to feel really unique. So you have that interesting blend of being a unique individual, but also being in the comfort of knowing like you're with your girls. You've got all of these Stanley users. So you're individual, but you're together, if that makes sense. And I think that's a really great strategy.
Yeah, they're doing certain drops too. I had 2 clients come in. It was, I don't know, Stanley teamed up with some designer or something. It's the floral looking one. And they were talking with each other and they're like,
the Mother's Day
I got this one. It's the floral. It looks like, I don't know, some bedspread that our mothers would have on their bed or whatever. It looks like some Victorian painted thing. And so just overhearing them, they're like so pumped about it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
No, there's real enthusiasm. There's real passion across all age groups for this item. And it's been a fascinating case study for me. So yeah, I'm learning a lot. And again, the age range is really fascinating. I'm also learning that there is a clear age divide on how they're discovering it though. So that's also, I think, a testament to the brand identity is that some of these folks are discovering it through their parents or their friends or social media. There's a real age divide on social media use. 20s, 30s, 40s are still using Instagram, but beyond that, Instagram is just not part of the landscape for the younger shoppers. So they're just on TikTok or YouTube. But regardless, they are still coming to the same conclusion that this is a cool product. So that means they are showing up so consistently in the world that no matter where you interact with them, no matter how you discovered Stanley, you're going to have the same feeling. No matter your age, no matter the channel. That is a really strong brand identity.
Wow.
Yeah. Kind of mind-blowing.
So this meeting we'll have tomorrow, what are some of the things we'll go over? And then what are the next steps that we take together that you start to take that information and then move it forward?
Yes. So tomorrow's meeting, which I'm very excited for, I will share more in depth with you around these discoveries that I've had through the interview. I'm trying to see if there are any more that I can share right now, or if we should really save them.
You could save them. You could just tell me kind of like the information we would cover and how you take, like how that information moves to the second phase.
Totally.
Because I know with your brand identity work, you kind of break things into 3 phases.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. There's just so much here. I think the next phase for me would be taking the lessons I have already from the research and doing like a final little round of research from where we are. So I want to go through all of the interview insights, all of the retail insights, some of the D2C landscape insights. I know we haven't talked much about our online direct sales strategy, but I think there is an opportunity there as well. The margins are great and you have a little bit more flexibility to do seasonal drops. So that could be fun to talk about. And then based on that, I want to take the most burning questions that we still have as a group and put that into a larger survey. So that'll be kind of the capstone of the research phase. So with a large survey, you want to be really intentional with the design of the questions because it's very easy to create implicit bias in questions when I can't speak to them, right? I can't communicate through tone. So we got to have 10 really intentional questions. What are the final lessons we want answered? Maybe it's a specific question about price range. I have some lessons on pricing that I want to share with y'all, but maybe you tell me, actually, we can't go that low or we can't go that high for this reason. Okay, so that limits the way that I phrase this next question. So we're kind of entering that like fine-tuning of the research phase. Next phase is me taking all the learnings, kind of mind mapping everything, finding the patterns, like I said. So that'll be really fun because I get to build out the identity of this target audience. And so since we'll know at that point their exact age range and our pricing strategy and our unique selling points, I can then start to build out, okay, what else is important to this person? How important is the eco-friendly strategy? What kind of call-outs will be important on pack? And so putting that together into the client ID and then also building out the brand architecture, which is like starting from our values as a brand. Like, what do you stand for? When someone thinks of Tumbler Tote, what do you want them to think of? What do you want them to associate with? Just like Coca-Cola. How do you want them to feel? And then that translates to your tone, right? So how do we come across in media, or what's our physical presence going to feel like? And that brings us to the final stage, which is more of that expression. So the style guide is kind of the defining asset. That's the takeaway. I mean, all of these research pieces are assets for the brand, but the style guide is going to be a consolidated, like really distilled identity plan, basically. So including colors and symbols and fonts and copy and how your brand shows up visually and tonally in the world. And so that's kind of like the culmination of all of the brand research and the patterns that we find.
This is why we need Mimi, because there's absolutely no way we would figure any of that out, or even know we were supposed to figure it out.
No.
The emotions you're supposed to feel.
Yes.
Thirsty. That's the emotion.
I would ask 3 people in the middle. Like,
thirsty.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but a lot of this as a consumer, if you haven't thought about it from the strategy perspective, you wouldn't really think further than that, right? Because you're not necessarily aware of it. Now that y'all are aware of this, how brands create strategy and a visual identity, you're going to start to see it everywhere. And you're going to start to think about, oh my God, why do I associate this brand with this feeling? What kind of mind tricks are they playing on me?
Yeah, once you start seeing behind the curtain, then your brain is catching those patterns everywhere. It's like business too. It's like everywhere I go, I'm like, how are these people making money? What made me make this decision to purchase this thing?
Totally.
You start thinking like that.
Exactly.
But now it's from a branding perspective. What made me feel this emotion? And why?
And it makes sense that you didn't have that process when building this product. You just saw people wanted this product and you made it and you put it out there and it has great reviews on Amazon, which is a feat in itself. But to then take it to the next step and think about how could we have this appeal to a large audience in a bunch of different settings, it takes some kind of like psychological assessment almost of like, how do I create that union with my customer, if I'm going back to the wedding analogy?
And it's funny, like the journey to get to this point was rough. Like we launched the Tumbler Tote on Amazon. It took off, was doing really well for the first few months. And then, as you know, got attacked by hijackers. And I'm grateful that happened, because if that didn't happen, if Tumbler Tote just took off and we made money, it would have hit this peak and then come down, and we would have been like, I guess that's it, because we would have no foundational knowledge of the brand or the brand identity or any of that stuff. So we had to go through that sort of dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Spend $100,000 trying to get it solved and just hemorrhaging money to now come to the conclusion that we have no fucking idea what we're doing and we need an expert to come help us with the foundational brand stuff. So now it can be brand rooted in longevity and have a long shelf life. Yeah. Whereas before it just would have been a flash in the pan.
Yeah, it would have burned out quickly.
Yeah.
And, that would have been interesting, but you're going to have so many more learnings and you're going to be a different person. You're going to be a different consumer.
Totally. Also. We would have made money and we would have been happy, but we wouldn't have learned much.
Yeah, we went from wanting to just sell some products on Amazon and make some money to now actually building a brand and a whole product that can go into different markets that I never even thought or considered once.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I really relate to that because that was my process too as a founder, having come from a totally different background and just discovering everything this as I go. It's like, wow, there's a whole world here where every detail has been considered for me, the end user. That's an incredible tapestry that I want to learn more about. And those failures are where we get the strongest learnings. Like I've had so many moments like that with Lune where I'm just like, I can't believe I went down that path. But if I hadn't gone down that path, I wouldn't know everything I know now. Like one of those learnings for me was really the 2010s mindset of like disruptor brands and D2C, like the Warby Parkers and the Allbirds of the world, like so much hype around that, so much venture funding. I was coming up as that was burning out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. As a young founder, I was just like, oh, sweet. It's easy to make a D2C brand these days. And as long as I have a specific niche, I'll just get funding forever and like build a unicorn. And it's like, we only know about those stories, one, because they are exceptional. They're exceptions to the rule. They're highly unlikely to happen. And two, you actually don't need to have a hyper-specific niche. That's kind of my take these days. And maybe that's just because I'm a little jaded. But I really think it's okay to play in a big market. It's okay to be in a space that's saturated. I think Tumbler Tote is interesting because this is a new market, right? The specific design of Tumbler Tote, but drinkware and apparel, they're huge, saturated spaces. And I think that's okay. I think in the 2010s, it was like, oh, don't touch it. Only start a business if you have some very, very specific angle that's disrupting. And the honest truth is building an actual disruptor is really hard. And you are going against the grain in so many ways that aren't necessary to build an iconic brand. Like you said, Coca-Cola is just a soda. So, Lune, I think I will do anything for that product to get into more hands. It's such a special product. And it is 5 years later still unique. It's still a disruptor because the product we created, Cramp Aid, specifically, there are no other fast-acting natural period cramp relief products. So that needs to be out there. And that's a disruptive thing inherently. But the education required around it is really hard because you're battling decades, maybe centuries of people who are just putting up with their period pain or just using painkillers. And that you already have so many jobs as a founder. Why make it harder for yourself? Mm-hmm. So I think choosing a space where there actually is a lot already happening, that's all good. And that's exciting. And I'm excited to kind of explore that and see where this goes because there's still a lot to learn.
What are your thoughts about something that always goes on in my back of my mind is like, I get worried that someone's just going to all of a sudden pop up like our trauma with Amazon and start selling something similar and just take off so quickly that at any point, all this is for nothing.
Yeah, like we're coming up grassroots, but someone gets funding, they get a seed round, and then they just blast us out of the water with marketing.
Yeah, that's something that's a real risk with this type of product. I think that's why building this brand is especially important because, again, like there's that intangible factor. Let's say someone had an identical product, but if the brand and the symbols and the colors and the copy are giving you a different feeling, you're just not going to choose it. People are still choosing Stanley, even though it's by some accounts an inferior product to some other tumblers because of whatever feeling it's giving them, right? They see that cute little polar bear and they're like, yes, I want that one. And literally this happened in Whole Foods. I was in a Whole Foods store doing an audit. And while I'm there, two girls in their 20s walk by and literally they were just like, whoa, like their eyes locked in on the Stanleys and the Owalas, and they're like, I really want to get one. I really want to get one. That must be happening all day if I just happen to notice it at one store audit. So yeah, I think you do have to really build a memorable brand that makes people feel a certain way. We've already gone over that. I think the patent is awesome for this because I actually do think it's a very special design that after visiting 12 stores in person and like 100 stores online, there's actually nothing like it. There are slings and there are carriers. And believe it or not, well, you probably know this, but Stanley has a water bottle crossbody. Not the sling, but the actual bottle. They launched in June. It has a built-in handle, crossbody handle.
Huh.
No one's talking about that. So I'm super curious about that. And what did they do there that was different from everything else? Because I think their playbook of just latching on to other brands has been brilliant. It's the same guy who did Crocs who's now reinventing Stanley. And it worked one time and it's working again. It's like, that's his trick, which is just attaching to other brands that are already established that people love and doing collaborations with them. And they've done that, like you said, with that floral designer, with Olivia Rodrigo, I think Taylor Swift, UT. And I think they didn't do that for the crossbody. And I'm just like, why? There's something.
I remember when they
missing
were going to
there.
launch it, we were selling, and I was like, I was waiting for them to pop out because I thought it would help our sales for some reason on Amazon. And I remember when it came out, and the material, they did great photos, but the material looks like it's made of like a canvasy, something you would find in REI. I'm like, you have this. They clearly don't necessarily understand specifically who the women are buying this. They're not going to wear this camping looking goofy, I don't know, utility carrier when
it does look very camping, like REI
when
vibes.
The woman's rolling up in her Mercedes and she's got pearls on when she works out, she's not going to wear that. Guys, I don't know. To me, it's goofy because it also is a symbol too of, I think, of wealth.
Right. But Stanley itself, like this whole Tumblr, like women Tumblr thing, that's all brand new, right? Like Stanley was a camping brand. They made fucking coolers
if
and
the women are the ones
mess kits
buying it.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right. But I guess from their perspective, they're trying to stay consistent with their brand.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know. It definitely sparked my curiosity and I'm still looking into it. I think my hypothesis is maybe they just are going a little too broad now because they brought in this guy, Terrence Riley, and he's like, we can do anything as long as we have brand collabs. We can just, eat up these other markets.
The Crocs guy.
This is the Crocs guy. Yeah. And it's working. But now that they've had this huge spike of women of all ages joining their audience who need to carry this thing, they were just kind of like, let's make a product that they could all use. That's still a really big group. Even though it's women now that they're targeting, it's still all ages. So I think they weren't specific enough with the design, which is what you're hitting on, is like, how can we create something that's really specific to a subset of this group? So these women who care about style, care about feeling luxe, but also are working out or also are on the go, or nurses, as I maybe mentioned before. I think that specificity is what's going to build our brand first. And you really need to get that foothold in the market first, where people are passionate about you in one circle before you kind of dilute the brand and get too big.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think that's what's happening. But it really sparked my curiosity because it launched in June. I not a single girl mentioned it. Why did you think it would help Tumblr Tote? Because it technically eliminates...
I thought eventually they would start selling on Amazon. And I thought that would help the search volume for carriers go up.
Yeah.
And even if we were third, fourth, or fifth place, we would be an alternative option where they're like, this ugly thing, let's get the Tumblr Tote.
I could see that.
That's why I thought.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I don't see them selling it on Amazon yet.
No.
It must not do well enough just in general to flip it over. I don't know. I bet it probably would do well on Amazon versus anything else if they priced it right.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe they just saw kind of the lackluster response on TikTok and were like, I don't know if we're going to take this further.
Yeah, I have a bunch of thoughts about it, but I'm not going to tell you, Stanley. Stop listening.
Yeah, stop listening. I've got some trade secrets.
I have a bunch of thoughts about how they fucked it up. But.
I have so many more thoughts. I'm really excited to share it with y'all tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a really fascinating case study already. And we'll be moving into the patterns and the architecture. That'll be our project for October.
Cool.
Super excited.
Well, we really appreciate you diving into all this, Mimi. And for anybody listening that needs their brands sorted out,
yeah,
Mimi is probably the person to come talk to.
Hit me up, especially if you're in Austin. I really love the chance to be in person with y'all and like really build something that matters here. Like I mentioned, having a core group is a great way to start a brand, and people love local brands in Austin. It definitely influenced my buying decisions when I go to Whole Foods, and they call that out. So I think Whole Foods is going to be great for sharing that y'all are local founders. I'm here to support you.
Yeah, and if we're in there, Mimi will be a big reason that we are in the Whole Foods in Austin, which would be super rad.
I totally see it. It's happening. Manifesting.
Well, Mimi, where can people find you?
Email me, I guess. Old school. I kind of
carrier pigeon.
Yeah, that works too. Message in a bottle. millardmimi@gmail.com.
Millard.
Millard.
I said your name wrong in the intro.
It's okay. I kind of like that better.
Millard?
Millard.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little
Millard,
crisp twang to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm trying to use social media strictly for brand research these days. Personally, need a little distance from all the noise that's happening on there, all the messaging and marketing. It's a lot, which is why we don't want to pay for social ads. I have a whole other rant about that. I think there's a lot we can do for free.
Okay. Well, episode 2.
Episode 2. We'll see where this goes.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Thank
you, Mimi.
Thanks, y'all. That was fun.